Ethereum is actually a shitcoin and people will get broke if they have Ethereum. Ethereum is a shitcoin and I'm not even saying this to be edgy or to gain attention. I'm saying it because it's true. If you don't understand what's actually happening under the hood, you could be financially wrecked in the next few years. A few years ago, everyone was screaming, Ethereum, Ethereum will flip Bitcoin, Ethereum will be number one. Now we are seeing gas fees explode, hacks everywhere. And the ecosystem built on lies and inflation. So let's break it down. No hype, no bias, just the brutal truth. When it comes to Ethereum, over the past years, Ethereum was always a very strong outperformer, especially towards the end of the bull run. The past bull runs, you would always see Bitcoin pump heavily, and at one point, Bitcoin would start to top out. You would see liquidity would go down, obviously therefore the price too. The interest in Bitcoin would go down, and everyone was looking for another project to now capitalize on. Especially what happened is they would move their money from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and I did that myself because it was always a very profitable move, especially after last bull run when Bitcoin topped out, made a new all-time high at 65k, something like that. Then Ethereum on top of that made another 100+% just directly afterwards, pumping for the next 2 or 3 months. So that was how Ethereum was mainly used, especially when it comes to traders, with the sole purpose of multiplying your money, making percentages on your investment, right? But then Ethereum also was always speaking about highly, especially about technology, the usage, the chain itself that then basically powers even NFTs, other, especially in the last bull run, other subcategories like NFTs that completely blew up, right? But the big problem is that since the last bull run, and especially over the last 2 years, and especially the last year, because if you would have invested into Ethereum 1.5 years ago, you would still be at the same percentage or even maybe a little bit in minus. So Ethereum performed very poorly, and therefore people started to call it a shitcoin. People started to move their funds out, and I'm one of them, right? I'm not just calling Ethereum right now a shitcoin. This may change. I'm not saying this is forever, but in certain circumstances, or especially right now, if it continues like that, it is a shitcoin. I moved my money out because I see more potential even in gold nowadays with all the conflicts going on than in Ethereum, because Ethereum just has not made me any money over 1 year. And if something doesn't make you money over 1 year, then I, in my opinion, think you should abandon it, maybe leave a certain moon bag, as we call it, a couple of percent inside. So my NFTs that I hold, if it's mutant apes, if it's the penguins and whatever, these blue chip meme coins, I still hold them on Ethereum, right? So if I would sell them, I would still gain Ethereum and I would still positively gain any percentages if there's a price increase, which we didn't see. So therefore, Ethereum was very much left behind because new narratives came around. The meme coin narrative came around, took and stole a lot of the liquidity, especially because they're unregulated, a lot of scams, a lot of rug pulls, a lot of, let's say, discrimination towards crypto itself happened through these meme coins, because you always need to see it from, let's say, the top investors, let's say the top tier investors that have hundreds of millions. Why should they go into the crypto space if they currently read about meme coin, rug pulls, Millet, Trump coin, Melania coin, all of these BS, right? So basically this volume was missed, and that's why in my theory Ethereum right now is not interesting, especially because other chains such as Solana, Sui and other coins, but especially Solana, took a lot of, let's say, the spotlight from Ethereum, because it just at the end of the day very basically explained, without going too technically here, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's better, it developed more. So going into my notes, it's very important that you need to understand that there's a lack of clarity and new narrative in Ethereum, right? So for example, Bitcoin dominates with the ETF, institutional adoption, right? And the narrative and the stability, and therefore being infinite and being the #1 player. Solana, Ton and other chains benefit from fast chain hype, right? So that's basically why Solana, the meme coin trading, started, because it's very low fees, it's very fast. All of these decentralized exchanges, #1 is always the Solana chain, not the Ethereum chain. So there's a lot of problems. We have high competition from other layer ones, especially Solana, as I said, Ton, Sui, Aptos, etc., especially when it comes to DeFi. We have layers 2 cannibalizing attention, right? So at the end of the day, Arbitrum base is being more used nowadays and is a bigger option for especially institutions than, for example, Ethereum, because of the hacks, because it's so slow, because of the fees, right? Then you have the staking dynamic, you have a lot of sales pressure. Ethereum staking yield 3 to 4%, you get more on most of the other coins and change. Then obviously you have a lot of narrative changes in general, right? So people are more focused on Solana, they're more focused on Bitcoin because of the institution, they're very focused on DeFi and Web3, especially right now. So I think the only comeback for Ethereum could really be if at the end of the day, the tokens for tokenization, because I truly believe the next big trend and narrative in the up and coming month and years is going to be the tokenization of assets, real world assets. But for real world assets, there's other coins, there's others change. So we need to see an improvement in Ethereum when it comes to the fees, when it comes to the stability, when it comes to the narrative, so they can get it back, because I still truly believe that most of the trust is still in Ethereum. It's still number 2 coin. It's still something that most people hold, even myself, even though I sold my whole liquid assets in Ethereum. So my only Ethereum holdings, right? I sold them, I converted them into something else where I see more potential, as I already said, gold. Don't need to follow me on this, but that's what I did, right? And already gained very good percentages. I truly believe the big change is if they adapt to these 3 things: stability, how fast the network works, so they need to increase the network, hacks, and then the fees. The fee structure is just way too high because decentralized finance came as a big hype and Ethereum was just not ready for it. If it would have been ready, I truly believe the trust would have been more there and Solana wouldn't have gotten so much ice. But since Solana was faster, better, stronger, and didn't have these problems at the time, people adopted Solana and now are used to it. So now you need to explain, why should someone use the high gas fees and the long waiting time, especially if you want to do high frequency trading, if you want to trade in faster time frames. The Ethereum is just so slow. If you buy a meme coin and it moves 100% or 50% or 20% per second, right? Sometimes these meme coins you want to get out fast, where then in Ethereum you wait and you wait and you wait, and it's just too slow. So for trading, especially on decentralized finance, it's just too slow, right? So I truly believe they can get it back if they push it right now. If not, it's lost forever. So therefore, I'm not betting so highly on Ethereum anymore. Therefore, I'm saying it's a shitcoin right now. And therefore, if they don't change anything, it will and stay a shitcoin. And it will be a memory of what it actually was and how it started. The question is Ethereum actually scalable right now? Okay, why do we still pay $80 for a swap in 2025? And that's exactly what I've been saying, is they took too long. It took too long for them to scale it. And I don't know if there's any internal issues on the project itself, if it's just like, it's not even interesting for them anymore. I know Vitaly, for example, is only a part owner. There's many people behind it. There's still big people in it, but definitely nothing really changed. There was the change once a couple of years ago, I think 1 or 2 years ago, which should have made it more stable and faster, which it made a little bit, but still not a big difference for us as users every day. And still every day I would choose Solana over Ethereum, especially for decentralized finance, especially for payments, especially for anything, because you just don't want to waste. And look, for someone that has multi-millions, if he has gas fees of $80, he doesn't give a solitary. But for someone that is sending $80 or $100, $120 all the time, paying this $20, $30, you're just gonna swap to TRC. You're just gonna use TRC. You're just gonna use Solana. You're just gonna use BNB. You're gonna use the other chains base, for example, because you just want to save that money. So if they don't scale it, then people will obviously not use it because they're losing money. There's faster and better and more safer transaction methods than using the Ethereum chain. Especially, I've been speaking about a Rollup, right? They had this Rollup, but the Rollup didn't fix anything meaningful, right? Because I truly believe that the chain itself and the project is like a dinosaur. It was the first one after Bitcoin to gain this attention, and now it's lagging behind. So at the end of the day, I truly believe there needs to be a lot of changes very fast to fix meaningful issues, new rollups, new updates, in general, making the capability of Ethereum adopting to the nowadays narrative and what people actually want, and that's fast and cheap. That's, if they solve this, it's going to be a big benefit. After building up a lot of years of, let's say, credibility, especially in the Solana chain and base chain and so on, people started to just use them more, right? So I truly believe, yes, Ethereum is deflationary, because if you count in inflation to what Ethereum actually made, which is -2%, -3%, or at least at zero over 1 year, you are basically losing up to 10% of your money. So it is, and that's very sad to see, because once a very big coin, a very respected coin, a very respected project itself, or company, if you even want to call it that, now is at the end of the day lying there, not doing anything, and every day using less and less, losing users, because again, it's just faster somewhere else and it's cheaper. So that's what people want to use. Maybe there will be a narrative again, the real world asset one, maybe the NFTs come back, but then there are also many other chains and many other, let's say, coins are supporting a way faster and better, let's say, transition and transfer method in general, right? So why go back to Ethereum if people are once already used to Solana and other chains? It will be very difficult to steal it back from them. Ethereum flawed tech, inflationary tokenomics, centralized control, vulnerable security. It's not the future. Do you still believe, honestly, I want to know, Ethereum, is it the next internet, or are you smart enough to see through the illusion? Drop a comment on this, and if you want raw, no BS takes on crypto, subscribe and click the bell.